All right, just sit back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device. All right, everybody, welcome out to the Get On With It Sports Show. It is Wednesday, June the 8th, 2022. Jersey Johnny coming at you. With me, as always, is none other than Mr. RadioPete, Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hello, RadioPete. Hello, Jersey Johnny.
Hi, everybody.
I'm sorry,
Hello.
RadioPete not on his phone this week.
I'm in the studio.
Back in the studio.
Yeah.
Is that what you call it these days? The studio?
Well, sure. It's like a little one-bedroom type of.
It's a little closet with a floor drain, and
This is, when we had the house redone, I wanted 3 bedrooms. But
all for yourself?
no.
He needed to change your venue every night. Yeah.
In the upstairs, but there's someone in the house that's more important than me.
Many.
Many
in the house.
And she
Is there anyone in the house that's less important than you?
No, not anymore. So she wanted 4 bedrooms, and so we have this weird little bedroom that doesn't have a closet.
It's not a bedroom then.
2 big windows.
So it actually is a closet. If it's a bedroom that doesn't have a closet, it's a
If it
closet.
does not have a closet, it's not a bedroom.
Back there on the other side of the wall that's behind the shelves of wonder is the master bedroom.
Okay.
And I thought we put a door right in that corner.
And make that a walk-in closet.
First it would be a nursery.
You guys are going to have kids
right?
in?
No. It's when we were building the house the first time.
Yeah. You're smarter to keep it as 4 bedrooms for resale.
Make a great nursery. And then when we kick the kid out into the other rooms, then it becomes a walk-in closet, and you can put a desk and a study in here or whatever. Overruled. But yeah, it's a 4th bedroom. So.
But now you have your little
lair.
Now I have my lair, my manhole. It's not quite a cave.
Manhole. He's got his manhole.
Radio
gotta have a good manhole.
Live from Radio Pete's manhole, it's the Get On With It podcast.
Now mind you, it's not it's not one word manhole. It's 2 words. It's a man. Hole.
You used to work at the manhole, didn't you? Back in the 90s.
Yes.
That's the name of his other OnlyFans.
I was
manhole.
Radio Pete. You know him from his days as he's now in the Hall of Fame at the manhole.
Yeah, I was in special promotions back then.
Yeah, you certainly were. You were.
Yeah, damn right I was.
Yeah, I remember. Yep, it's hard to get into the manhole.
Not anymore.
I was going to say I don't think so. I think it's fairly easy to get into.
I think it's been closed for many years.
All right, I'm gonna have a beer tonight. I'm gonna enjoy a little Velvet Hand action from Kane Brewing. It's a
Velvet Hand.
But what kind of beer are you having?
It's an ESB.
It's funny because
special bitter.
Pete offered the Velvet Hand when he worked at the manhole.
He did. We got a caller. Hold on, let's bring the caller on. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
All right. So I just wanted to.
Hold on.
I don't know what's going on.
I was trying to get some video feedback.
Video feedback.
Don't show your phone too close.
I'm just trying to decide whether I want to look at the 4 of us on your phone or your camera. I'm not sure which I want to look at. So it could be either.
What?
There's
2 of me.
There's 2 of you.
2. Check.
All right, I'll see you guys next week.
You got to look.
All right, back to
just leave it, and Pete can do this show with himself.
Again, the Velvet Hand.
The Velvet Hand. Little Velvet Hand action. This is an ESB. It's an extra special bitter. It's an English style ale. It's pretty tasty.
By the way, when is the Waverly Shores? What are those beers called?
Waverly Shores.
Yeah. What are they called? Building sandcastles?
Building sandcastles and Trojan Seahorse. Those are the first.
This is the best name ever. When are they coming to Long Island?
They'll be coming to Long Island not anytime soon, actually. No, they'll be. It's going to be a few months before they make it to New York. The launch was in Jersey, so they have to They have to go through proper procedures to get allowed to enter the state of New York. Once they do, though, I will inform you.
Yeah, I want to talk to my friend out in Smithtown there.
Yes,
at the beer store.
The beer store.
All sorts of funky beers.
Absolutely. Well, you know what you could do too. We still got to come out and do a day in Northport.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I can come out and I can bring a couple of beers out with me, and you can drop them off to them. You can taste them at least.
That's a good idea.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Well, if you come out, I'll take you out there and you can meet them.
We could do that too,
and then we can have a taste,
and then we can all have a little bit of a taste. Sure.
Yeah,
works for me.
There we go.
We'll set that up.
All right. So,
well, this has been a good show.
Yeah.
We got the. I mentioned it to Harry before. Rocking the Jackie Moon jersey tonight, but I was gonna have the "Love Me Sexy" intro tonight, but I figured we get banned for that from somewhere or whatever. So
there's too much going on with the manhole and the velvet hand. We can't add "Love You Sexy."
"Love Me Sexy" on top of that. No, that's not gonna work. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So tonight we're gonna do what we would normally do the second half of last week, like we did 2 weeks and 3 weeks ago. We'll do we're gonna do our top list. We're gonna do our quiz. We're gonna do all of that fun stuff. So why don't we get right to it? Why don't we get to our quiz, tonight's quiz? Why don't we get to tonight's quiz? What do you think?
Let's get to it.
So jump right into it. Okay,
so sports.
It's a sports. Yeah, it's a baseball quiz. Like we've been doing baseball quizzes. We did pitchers. We went all the way back to 1960. I thought it was probably a good idea if we stopped at 1960, not go back to like 1940s for pitchers or whatever. So let's jump right into Major League Baseball designated hitters, DHs. And the span of time for this first one will be 2000 through today. So we got a decent current 2000 through current day. And mind you, these 6 names are really not current, but I'm not including a few people. It wasn't that good of a list. I looked to do a 2010 till today or something like that. It wasn't a great list. So I'm like, let's go back. Let's do 2000 through today. So
fired up.
Here we go. Write them down. Remember, 4. I'm gonna give me a 6. 4 got to stay. 2 got to go.
All right.
Write them down. Here we go. Big Papi, David Ortiz. All right. Next one will be Nelson Cruz. Nelson Cruz.
Papi.
All right.
Cruz.
There you go.
N.
Jim Thome.
Thome.
Little Thome action. Victor Martinez. Travis Hafner. And we'll round it out with the big hurt, Mr. Frank Thomas. So David Ortiz, Nelson Cruz, Jim Thome, Victor Martinez, Travis Hafner, Frank Thomas. Radio Pete, kick us off. Who are you getting rid of?
I don't want to put too much thought into this.
No.
I'm going to get rid of Nelson Cruz.
Okay.
And I'm going to get rid of Travis Hafner.
All right. So you're keeping...
I'm going to keep Big Papi. I'm going to keep Jimmy.
All right.
Which I think probably Harry might get rid of Jim Thome. I'm going to keep Vic Mart. And got to keep the big hurt. Because I would never know about the testosterone.
Fair enough.
Snake oil that he's hawking. If he didn't...
True?
I got to reward him for helping me get my back in gear, if you know what I mean.
Really, because you wouldn't have that second career if he didn't, do that for you.
As a porn star and only
so
I wouldn't be able to do OnlyFans if it wasn't for Frank Thomas.
If it wasn't for Frank Thomas,
and whatever that testosterone thing he's.
So we no Edgar Martinez on this list, correct?
No Edgar Martinez on this list. No.
Yeah.
No, I opted for Victor Martinez. Didn't want 2 Martinez's on one list.
I thought you were gonna. And I thought that was gonna be the next.
There's a few names left off by doing it this way. Albert Pujols obviously is off.
Edgar there's always names left off. Not like there's only 6.
Well, I think you have to. leave Ortiz and Thomas on there. I think the only other person that I would probably that could possibly beat out Big Papi would be Edgar Martinez. So, but he's not on this list. So we're going David Ortiz and Frank Thomas. I don't want to keep Travis Hafner on this list, but he was pretty damn good, and he
was
played
actually
DH more
really
than anything else.
pretty good, and yeah, that's very true.
I'm gonna take off. Fucking Jim Thome. I hate Jim Thome.
I can't believe you didn't immediately cut him.
I'm gonna cut him just for illogical reasons. I'm gonna pull a Pete.
You should have pulled it. I thought you were gonna pull me and go, well, Thome's out.
Tommy's out. I'm gonna keep Nelson Cruz and get rid of Victor Martinez and Jim Thome.
All right.
For no reason at all.
So we have Papi, Frank,
Travis Hafner,
and that's it.
Nelson Cruz. The only you only have Big Papi and the Big Hurt. The two big ones, if you will, on this list.
You didn't pick Frank Thomas?
No, I did.
You did.
Yeah, so did I.
No, David Ortiz and Frank Thomas are the only ones that you two agreed on.
Oh, you didn't. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got rid of Cruz and Hafner.
He got rid of Cruz and Hafner. You got rid of Thome and Martinez.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're back to disagreeing.
There you go.
And
you only half disagreed, so that's not that.
I mean, honestly, if I were, using any logic at all, Thome would be gone.
I don't know. He put up some pretty deep, but he played first base a bit more. I don't know. Edgar Martinez probably was.
Maybe we'll do.
Nelson Cruz was definitely. Yeah.
Maybe we'll do part B in a couple of weeks. Maybe we'll do part B of this 2000 through today.
Well, Travis Hafner and Victor Martinez. Victor Martinez was. I don't know. I feel good with my choices, only because Frank Thomas was kind of one of the top 4 or 5 quintessential DHs.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah. So, all right.
I don't think you could go wrong with anyone on this list.
No. They're all actually really close. Obviously, Big Papi and I would say Big Papi and is the obvious on this list. The top dog.
Right.
But
yeah, I would agree.
Agreed.
Isn't he the first designated hitter to be voted into the Hall of Fame as a designated hitter?
As a designated hitter, yeah. And first ballot, too, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You betcha.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
All right.
Well, cool.
Move it on.
MoveOn.org. All right. Here we go. All right. So that brings us to, this week's top list, huh?
All-time starting five.
All-time starting five and second team starting five for this week is the top Golden State Warriors of all time. And just, in case you were wondering, it's also, probably obviously may incorporate some San Francisco Warriors, maybe even a Philadelphia Warrior or two. We'll see. Mm-hmm. But the Warriors, nonetheless, of the NBA of all time. All right. So read them right through, and then we'll discuss them as we have done.
Let them rip.
All right. First team starting point guard is none other than Mr. Steph Curry. First team starting shooting guard Chris Mullin. First team starting small forward Rick Barry. First team starting point guard is Mr. Kevin Durant. KD, if you will.
Power forward.
I'm sorry. What did I say?
Point guard.
I'm sorry. My bad. Power forward, Kevin Durant. And first team starting center is Wilt the Stilt, Mr. Chamberlain. There we go. All right. There we go. Steph Curry, Chris Mullin, Rick Barry, Kevin Durant, and Wilt Chamberlain. Discussions on first team?
Well, their point guard's not a point guard. The other three, with the exception of Wilt Chamberlain, were all small forwards. But this is a hell of a team. Look, I struggled a little bit with Durant, not to question. I think Durant's going to go down as one of the best players in the history of the game. But he won 2 championships in 3 years. Mm-hmm. And, he met our criteria of being there for 3 years. This Warriors, the history of this team is a little deeper, but man, at the small forward position, which is usually a position that's not that deep on a lot of teams,
A preponderance of great
preponderance. I mean, you could argue that
Really,
of their top 10 players, maybe 6 of them were small forwards, and the rest were centers. So, and I say that Steph Curry is not really. I mean, he is. I think he followed in a long line of point guards who were not what you would think of as a prototypical point guard. But there are no really prototypical point guards anymore. And yes, he is a point guard. And yes, technically, Chris Mullin came in as a shooting guard, but was really a small forward. And yes, Kevin Durant is also a small forward, even though he's 7 foot tall. And we all know Wilt Chamberlain was actually a shooting guard. But that was a joke.
That's true.
I think out of all of these, I think the numbers that are the most astonishing are Wilt Chamberlain's.
Oh, hell yeah. Of course.
What he did in his time here. And there's somebody who I think will be on our second team who played alongside of him for 1 year and then came in and became the starting center for the Warriors that also put up numbers. But Chamberlain's numbers were gaudy, and I think he only won one title, correct, with Golden State. Same thing with Rick Barry. They won one. We think of the Golden State Warriors, I think, primarily as a team of the now. They were, for much of the 80s and the 90s, they were not a team that you really thought about a lot. They had a little bit of a surge in the 90s and into the early 2000s with some of their teams, but they became the Warriors, the team that everybody's going to know them as, much like the Bulls of the 90s,
right,
is the Golden State Warriors of the 2000.
Well, there was, in the 90s, there was a little choking going on in Golden State too.
Yeah. And they sometimes they blew a game here and there too. But yeah, they've had a run of really good players. And I think it was a little bit more challenging to make this list than some others, because they're one of those teams that it doesn't seem like there's a lot of people. The people who stay forever, but it's a handful,
right? And
the rest, I think they were a team that sort of was representative of what is going on now in sports, where they just seem to filter through a lot of players.
Right. Fair enough. Pete, anything on first team?
Yeah, I just I didn't put KD on the first team.
You had him on the second team.
I had him on the second team. Nate Thurmond, and KD's one of the greatest to ever play the game, and Nate Thurmond is too. Right. And yeah, he won 2 out of the 3 finals there, but
2-time finals MVP.
2-time finals MVP. But remember that in the 2 years before he got there, they went to the finals and they won one of those 2 too. So to me, he played great and all that, but he wasn't as necessary a component as maybe some people might think. But but it's kind of splitting hairs.
Right.
I don't think they win. I don't think they win any of those championships without Durant. I think the competition was different when they won in 2015, and they were a different team. I think they needed Durant to win those last 2.
Well, listen, they had the same record in 2017 as they had in 2015, and they had a worse record by 9. Right.
But the playoff competition was different, especially with where LeBron was, and where
and remember, they went 73-9 and they lost in the finals.
Right.
So
I understand. And that's a mark against Durant a little bit.
Right.
I struggled with putting him on the first team too. I didn't want to, but when I looked at it, I was just like, he did have some amazing years.
He did. He did.
And other than Wilt Chamberlain's, no one's had as high a scoring average as
I agree.
him.
But
it wasn't like he was chucking up 27. He was the most efficient Kevin Durant out of very many efficient Kevin Durants in his time in Golden State.
But I also think that his limited time in Golden State,
yes,
He met the criteria, but I hold that a little bit against him.
If we slid Nate Thurman over to power forward, I would not argue with you.
Yeah.
Even though he was a center. So I just think that it's a tough list, but it was a tough call. But I agree with you. I think if Durant played 2 more years and won a 3rd championship, then it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
But this is also an organization that only had 1 championship up until that point. And Steph Curry.
Well, they had 1 in Philly, but
right. But I mean, in their time in the Bay Area.
Yeah. And by the way, where's the little? So 63, they moved to San Francisco and they became the San Francisco Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 72, they moved to Oakland.
Right.
That's when they became the Golden State Warriors.
Right.
Now, I guess because what was 1972 Oakland like? I mean, it was the Raiders were still there, right?
Raiders were there.
Well, then the A's were
there.
On their way up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2020 moved back to San Francisco and kept the name. So they didn't. So Golden State was not necessarily having to do with San Francisco.
No, it had to do with California.
Maybe they just didn't want to call themselves the Oakland Warriors.
Right, they didn't want to. Obviously, they couldn't remain. Well, I mean, hey, you know what? I mean,
they could have continued to call themselves the San Francisco Warriors.
Exactly. The San Francisco 49ers play in where they play, San Jose or wherever the hell the stadium is. Yeah. So I mean,
yeah, the New York Giants play in East Rutherford, New
exactly,
Jersey.
as do the New York Jets. So,
yes,
but
I don't know. Maybe they just didn't want to.
It's just
maybe they didn't want to associate themselves with Oakland.
Yeah,
it's possible.
Of course, I don't know why they would, but why they would go there if that was the case. But maybe they just got a good deal.
Yeah, who knows?
Mm-hmm. Okay, who knows? All right, let's do our second team. Here we go. Second team starting 5. Here we go. Our second team point guard is Mr. Tim Hardaway. 2 lists in a row.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. Second team starting shooting guard is Mr. Klay Thompson. Second team small forward, Paul Arizin. Second team power forward, Draymond Green. And, of course, the aforementioned Nate Thurmond, our second team starting center. All right, let's talk about our second team.
Thurmond is a guy who I think a lot of casual fans don't know about, but his numbers were staggering, especially his rebounding. And like I said earlier, he came into the league, played alongside Wilt for, I think, Wilt's last year with Golden State, and then took over that center spot. And even Wilt Chamberlain was quoted as saying that this guy would be an all-star and an all-NBA center if he wasn't playing alongside of him.
Right.
I think some of these guys on this second team get the benefit of the doubt of the time and the era that they're playing in.
Right.
Klay Thompson, look, I'm not taking anything against Klay Thompson. He was part of the percentage-wise the best shooting backcourt in the history of basketball, and he's part of 3 championships, right? Which is pretty rarefied air. Same thing with Draymond Green. You talk about Draymond Green. His numbers don't pop out at you, but if you look at him, he's typically leading the team in assists on a team that moves the ball really well. Mm-hmm. And Tim Hardaway was one of those guys who sort of led this team at a time when they were kind of poking at the bubble a little bit. I think most people remember Hardaway more as a Miami Heat, and part of that sort of rough and tumble battles with both the Bulls and the Knicks and the Pacers and everybody else. But Hardaway put up some good years. He wasn't there long, but he put up some really good years there. Mm-hmm. And Arizin could arguably be in the top 5 Warriors of all time. I mean, he was just that good a player. So this list, I struggled with Draymond a little bit. It's nothing personal, because if it was personal, he wouldn't even be mentioned today. Yeah. But I do think the intangibles that he brings and the fact that they won, I do put an emphasis on winning, and the fact that they have 3 championships, maybe a 4th coming up,
if I'm right,
is something that you can't overlook. But I think that there's some other guys who floated through. There's also some guys who played for them for 2.5 years, 3 years, but didn't play a full season. And Draymond's really one of the few power forwards, the pure power forwards to play on this team at a high level. So that's why I had him on this list.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Radio Pete?
Yeah, listen, I had Clay on the first team, and I don't necessarily disagree with anything that Harry said, but I mean, just looking at his numbers, before he got hurt, and again, he missed, 2 whole years basically. He was a workhorse, and he was a 20 plus points guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons in a row, and he's right there again this season. He was a big part of those teams, and of course, part of the team that won it before Durant got there. So
yeah,
that's why I gave him the
right.
the edge over Chris Mullin. And I love Chris Mullin.
Mullin's numbers are almost exactly the same. In fact, I think his average is a little higher than Klay Thompson. I think Mullin was a better defensive player. Mullin was not as pure a shooter as Klay Thompson. Yep. He worked to get his points a little bit more. And I also think that Chris Mullin played alongside Seth Curry, his shooting percentage probably would have went up another 30 points. Right. Because at the time, for many of those years, Chris Mullin was the only guy on Golden State. So he was getting triple teamed half the time. Okay. So that's the only reason why I had him. And Klay Thompson's defense is a liability. He's not a horrible defensive player, but he's not a great defensive player. And I also think that Klay Thompson's
that fits right in with the current NBA, though, right?
Well, he does. I also think he's a little inconsistent, and he'll probably prove me wrong in the finals. Yeah. But again, I agree with Pete. I think it was a toss-up. I think any of the you
could have done either or.
You substitute one of those guys for the other, and I don't have an issue with that.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I didn't. I guess you're rubbing off on me a little bit, Harry, and I'm not even going to charge you for that.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm
and I don't even have
to give the extra credits for it. You don't have to do that.
I'm looking at Clay. I'm looking at Clay, and I'm looking at those championships. And I love Mullin. I mean, I was a Syracuse guy, and Mullin, of course.
St. John's. I was the St. John's guy.
My roommate was from Bayside, and he was a St. John's fan. So that was when the Orange Men weren't playing, we would root for St. John's. So I love Chris Mullin, but I'm letting those championships sway my pick here.
Well, and I think I developed a distaste for Chris Mullin, much like Mark Jackson, just because of their time in Indiana, where it's just like, oh God, the talk about. I mean, Chris Mullin was a really underrated player. If you look at his numbers, they're much more impressive than you think. And the latter part of his career, really almost all of his career, but especially the latter part of his career, was played at a time when the average points per game were 20 less than what they are now.
Right.
So,
I mean, he was a 25 plus.
Yeah. 25.4 points per game for the Warriors. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
But he was, 26, 25, 1, 25, 7, 25, 5-6 years in a row.
Yeah. 4.5, 5, 6 assists, 6, 7 rebounds. He was again, they had a lot of really good wing / small forward tweeners, flex players. When you look at Rick, I mean, we didn't talk much about Rick Barry, but I mean,
it's Rick fucking Barry.
It's Rick fucking Barry. It's Kevin fucking Durant. It's Paul fucking Arizin. It's Chris. When Chris Mullin is the fourth person off your tongue, it's like, all right, well, and we forgot about Klay Thompson.
Right.
So I mean, they've had some really good.
We should have done top 10
small forwards.
Small forwards of the Golden State Warriors.
Small forwards / shooting guard.
But it doesn't matter. It's everybody.
I mean, Thompson's definitely a shooting guard, and I could picture Klay Thompson playing in the '80s with David Thompson. He's that kind of player. I mean, he is in the mold of a Byron Scott or a Michael Cooper. He has that kind of game. Right. He's tall. He's quick. He is maybe, if he wasn't playing with his partner in crime there, he might be considered the best catch and shoot guy in the league. He just hasn't. Injuries have taken, I think, a little bit of that away from him.
Sure.
And look, I'll give him credit for what he's been able to. He's worked his way back in this season, and he's still one of those guys that I think top 3, 4, 5 guys in the league. Where if you got last shot of the game with a championship on the line, I'm not going to complain if Klay Thompson's taking that shot.
There you go. I thought you were going to say, Pete. I thought you were going to say top 10 Golden State Warriors with the middle name fucking.
That's the way longer than 10 list.
Yeah, that's right.
And listen, it'd be interesting to see
Mitch fucking Richmond.
What what Thompson. I mean, this is his first year back after 2 years,
right?
And it's kind of that gotta get your legs under you, and But he's only 31, so he should be around for a few more years.
And I think Rick Barry miss like his when he was 24 and 25? Didn't he miss 2 seasons because of military service?
That could be.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's just like, okay.
Sure.
Let's see.
I don't know.
He
Doesn't
missed,
matter.
67, 68. Barred from playing in the ABA.
Didn't we go to high school with him?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, whatever.
Anyway.
Or
maybe maybe he left the NBA, went to the ABA. I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. All right, who's our bench players?
All right, bench players. Here we go. Our 5 reserve bench players are as follows. Here we go. Baron Davis, Jeff Mullins, the aforementioned Mitch fucking Richmond, Tom Gola, and Neil Johnston.
We got 5 this week.
We have 5 this week because
nice.
we need at least 4, and there was a tie for 4.
Nice.
So
well, good. I'm glad we got extra people in there.
There we go.
Nice.
So Baron Davis, Jeff Mullins, Mitch Richmond, Tom Gola, and Neil Johnston.
Baron Davis had one of the best playoff series I've ever witnessed by a basketball player. I forget what year it was, but Baron Davis, again, good point guards too on this team. And Baron Davis is a reserve, and Tim Hardaway's second team, or it's you got some good backcourt players.
Mm-hmm. There we go. This is true. Yeah, well, they're all great players in their own right too. I mean, this is for a list that's very deep in the small forward area. This is there's 15 players right here that are any one of which any combination, any 5 of which can
Oh yeah, these guys you could create some monstrous teams.
If this was a team, they'd score 189 points a game.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
They'd give up 170, but they
exactly.
They'd have to would have to play 45 minutes a game.
They would have to score 189 points in the game just to win by 4 points.
When you look at that list, other than Andre and Wilt, there's no defensive stalwart.
Not so much, no. So,
as long as they get the last shot, that's all you need.
This is true. Yeah,
be within 3 and get the last shot.
That's it. All right. I guess that brings us to this week's old balls. What do you think?
Old balls.
All right. Let's do this week's old balls.
Old balls.
Harry, please tell us who this week's old balls is.
This week's old balls recipient is a Golden State Warriors small forward who's might be the youngest balls ever on this list, and I think the first time ever an active player was chosen for old ball.
There you go.
But I left him off my bench, and I didn't really want to. Again, he's a guy who started his career as a star for another team, and then came to the Warriors and became a 3-time NBA champion. That's none other than Mr. Andre Iguodala, who started his career at the Philadelphia 76ers, was an incredible player on the Sixers, was traded to the Nuggets, a team on the Nuggets that we really thought was going to be a contender. In fact, he was on the Nuggets team where George Karl won Coach of the Year and then was fired after losing in the first round of the playoffs. So, Iggy then, of course, skipped out of Denver, as most good players do, landed in Golden State in 2013 in perfect timing to not only win his first NBA championship in 2015, but also 2017 and 18. And on that first Golden State team, he was the NBA Finals MVP. He's a one-time All-Star only in 2012. He was a first-team defensive team in 2014 and an All-NBA second-team defense in 2011. He was on the All-Rookie team in his first year in 2005. 2005. He's still playing for the Golden State Warriors. I think he was the original Draymond Green with a much more, with a better shot and much more scoring power. It seemed like Andre Iguodala was one of those guys that grew from a first option top tier scorer when he played for Philly to a guy who has really become pretty much the ultimate role player everywhere he's gone. And I think I think he might be a borderline Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. I don't know. I think his numbers and some injuries and his statistics have obviously not kept up with his early years. But, you know, if you talk about guys, the Robert Ory's of the world who have contributed to multiple championship teams, Andre Iguodala has to be at the top of that list right behind him. And still playing. I think the first time an active player receives the coveted old balls designation, but this week's recipient is none other than Mr. Andre Iguodala.
Old balls.
There you go. All right. Very good. I thought maybe you'd have Latrell in there.
Andrew Bogut. No, Sprewell is great. I mean, look, Sprewell is an interesting guy when he was at Golden State, and obviously he had some good years with the Knicks. But, I
don't think PJ thought he was all that good. But...
Well, PJ Carlesimo. I mean, I think most people want to strangle him. But look, Sprewell was an extreme.
Sprewell just took everybody's advice.
Andre Iguodala is the opposite of Latrell Sprewell, and in so many ways. But yeah, I mean, Sprewell's another one of those guys. I mean, Bernard King played for the Golden State Warriors. I mean, there's a lot of guys who drifted through there.
Yeah. Could have done a new bowl.
World be free. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who've had really good seasons. And I think when I was a kid, I always thought of Golden State as one of those Western teams where they score a lot of points and they're on at 11 o'clock at night. Right. And 4 o'clock in the afternoon after the Celtics and the Pistons played each other.
Right.
But, look, I think they're probably the most popular team in basketball. I think they have been for a number of years now. And I would argue that Steph Curry is probably the most popular player in basketball right now. When you look at just the broad spectrum of casual to young kids, I think the Warriors have a very appealing team, and the fact that they're constantly either in the Western Conference Final or the NBA Finals, they're on the radar nationally.
Right.
And I think they have a good coach. I think Steve Kerr is a great coach. And I also think Steve Kerr has kind of stepped into Greg Popovich's role as being somebody who's not afraid to step up and speak his mind and maybe talk some truth to a otherwise reticent listening audience that is the NBA. So
there you go.
Having said that, go Celtics.
There you go. Go Celtics. All right. Last week I picked. We did our picks last week, and we'll see. It's interesting how it's shaking out, but we'll see how it all comes out in the wash. Just to refresh everybody, Harry said the Celtics in 7. RadioPete said Celtics in 6. I said Golden State in 6. So we will see how that winds up.
And I have Nate Thurmond winning the MVP.
MVP, yes, absolutely, you do. So anyway, I have Ronnie Cycli winning the MVP for.
Did Ronnie Cycli play for the Golden State Warriors?
He did.
That's right.
He did.
He also played for the Miami Heat.
He did. Yeah, it's like him and Hardaway. It's like a Miami to.
Andre Iguodala too. Didn't he play for the Heat?
Iguodala. He did. Yeah, you're right. So it's like a conveyor belt. You go to Miami, you go out to.
Yeah.
That's the West Coast.
You throw in a Ronnie Cycli, you get an Andre Iguodala.
Why not? So all right. Let's see. We have a over under. We have a muted Pete, is what we have.
That's why no one responded to all my questions.
I was wondering why you weren't saying anything.
But maybe you were flatulent.
Well, that's,
So,
I wouldn't be here if that every week if that happened. Pete's mute again. He must have had the tacos. All right. So here's the over/under from the Shelves of Wonder. And
over/under from the Shelves of Wonder.
Once
I
again,
love it.
we're going with the shelving here in front of me and above me.
Yeah, we had to do a theme song for that. Over/under from the Shelves of Wonder.
The boy is home from school now, so it's time to get
Yes.
busy on some themes.
There you go.
I told him he can sleep till noon every day, but he has to write a theme every week if he wants to do that.
We need a theme for the quiz, and we need a theme for the over/under from the Shelves of Wonder.
Yeah, and there's one more that I think well, he's got to get to work on the next Jets.
Yes, we got.
I got to come up with an idea for it. So anyway,
Okay. Yeah.
but I've got some wonderful ideas for themes, which could feature some vocals by yours truly.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Then I'll have to sing because then I'll be the only one that's not singing at some point on the show.
oh, that's
We don't
true.
want to hear you sing.
Well, we'll get to. Well, you could be the Dan Aykroyd
There you go.
of the
There
show.
you go.
You'll be there, but your mic will be off.
Oh, I'm a biscuit.
And
Yeah.
I was thinking more of We Are the World.
Oh, okay. Was
Bob,
Dan Aykroyd in We
you're
Are
more
the
like
World?
Bob Dylan in We Are the
Was
World.
Dan Aykroyd in We Are the World?
I mean, have you guys ever seen the footage of Bob Dylan in We Are the World?
Yes.
Fantastic.
That's great.
Sometimes I can watch that for hours at a time. It's my favorite Bob Dylan moment.
Oh, I gotta love it.
Yeah.
All right. Remind me after the over/under to tell you a quick Bob Dylan story. But go ahead.
No, God.
All right, so here is what is
a
this,
check-
guys?
it's a checkbook. Check.
Oh,
checkbook. So we're gonna go with how many checks are in the checkbook?
How many are left?
How many are left?
Actual
How many are
checks.
usually in a thing? 15?
25?
25 maybe?
20, 25 or 50, depending on how big the checkbook. If it, I've seen 50 checkbooks, but 25 cents back.
That's at least 25 though, right?
Yeah.
All right. So
minimum 25.
Hold it up again. Hold it on the side. No, let me see the end of it. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Now, let me ask another question. Do you have, other than checks in there, do you also have the little check registry booklet where you write in what the check is?
I have.
And do you have duplicates in there? Carbon copies.
Like carbon copy. Like when you write the check, you rip it off. And
Carbon copies. What is it? 1984?
I still have them.
No,
Really?
you write a check and then you rip it off, and then there was a sheet underneath it that,
Did they make them that way?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Still?
Yeah.
I haven't
Absolutely.
seen those in years.
I have.
All right.
Yeah,
So that's a no on that. Do you have the
no
check registry?
carbons. No registry, but I do
Okay.
have some deposit slips,
Okay.
which
All
are
right.
part of the book as well.
So what is the over under?
So the over/under is 6.5.
The over/under is 6.
6.5.
6.5.
Well, it has to be a half.
I understand.
We don't want to push. And while you're thinking about it, let me throw a couple of little nuggets at you
Please.
that I just discovered yesterday.
Denver Nuggets.
Allen Iverson?
No.
He's a little nugget.
Which
Andre Miller? He's kind of a little nugget.
which city in the good old United States of America has 3 major sports teams that all wear the same colors?
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay, that was easy. All right, you guys are good. What color underwear are Major League umpires required to wear, and why?
Black.
Pink.
Black, but why?
So that it doesn't distract and blends into the rest of their uniform.
No, it's in case they split their pants.
That's what I mean. In case they...
Okay, well, you got to add that. Okay, who was the first player in World Series, and I think the only one so far, to be a designated hitter and had the initials DH? And it was 1986.
A designated hitter and have the initials DH.
David.
Thunder here. I don't know if you heard it.
What's his first name? Is it Don?
It's Daniel.
Daniel. Oh,
Or
Dan.
he was more commonly known as Danny.
Danny.
Did he play for the Kansas City Royals?
Danny Heap.
Danny Heap, that's right. He played for
The Mets.
amongst other teams. Let's see. I think those are.
What color underwear did Danny Heap wear?
He wore pink.
He wore pink.
Yes.
Oh, the Olympic rings.
Yes.
Yellow, green, red, black, and blue. Why those colors?
They were the first gay pride flag.
Yes.
I'll give you a hint.
All right. Yellow, green, red, black, and blue.
Yes, the Olympics are, of course, an international event,
Mm-hmm.
and those 5 colors
Represent
appear on the what of every single country.
Flag.
flag.
Very good. I left out that one word, and you guys got it.
Appear the flag of every single what?
What's the only sport that was so far to have been played on the moon?
Golf.
Golf. Should have been pickleball, though. And for each National Football League game, I think this is the last one, the home team must provide the footballs. How many must they provide?
12.
John?
6.
According to this, it's 36.
36 footballs.
That seems like a lot, doesn't
It's
it?
a little excessive, isn't it?
Like I could see if it
It's
was
in case somebody hits one, fouls one off.
raining or snowing or whatever. Oh, you know what? Speaking of fouling off, what is the average lifespan of a Major League Baseball?
6 pitches.
4 minutes.
5 to 7 pitches. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Very good.
There you go.
All right. So
Cool. Where'd you get that? Just out
Four
of
to
curiosity,
seven.
where'd you get
4
that?
to 7 minutes if it depends on the pitcher.
Exactly.
If it was Tommy John, it'd be like 4.5 hours.
well, yeah. Oh, who is that guy for the Mets? Steve Traxel.
Steve Traxel, yep.
Oh,
Tommy
you
John
could-
was actually quick.
You could go out and order a pizza and go pick it up.
You go pick it up and eat it before he
and
pitches
eat
the
it.
next pitch.
Jesus.
I love day games with Tommy John. They'd be over in an hour and a half.
All right. 6.5.
6.5.
over-under.
All right. Over under 6.5.
Bum, 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 bum.
Harry, go for it.
John,
What's
you
your-
go first this time.
I go first this time. I'm going over.
Over. John says over.
I was going to go with over, so I'm usually wrong, so I'm going to go under.
I'm going to go under. All right. Well, here are the deposit slips.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to give out my routing
No, you
number.
don't want to
number.
do that. No.
So
We trust
do
you.
it. We'll do it
No,
this way.
I believe you.
I'll go backwards.
You
So
count.
here's because you can't get anything off the back of the check. So here's the.
You don't have to count each one. We'll trust you.
We trust you.
1, 2, 3.
There you go.
Woohoo!
All right. Winner
Very
is
good.
Harry.
Next week I'll ask you how many are in the in the rest of the box.
There you go.
Mm.
Oh, because of how many books you have left in the box.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Gotcha.
How do you guys still write?
Maybe 3 a month tops. Everything
Yeah.
else is online.
Every now and then I come across like something from a lab, like a lab bill. You know, you get blood work done or something, and
Yeah.
they're like,
I still pay a lot of
pay
my
this
stuff.
online.
I still pay people with checks. So.
Yeah, I think I have 3 bills a month I send a check out for, but everything else is online.
Yeah, there's a couple of things.
Or
Pay
just
some- I pay some
automatically
contractors.
or just automatically deducted or whatever, just like
Yep.
If I get an invoice, I usually write a check. So
Mhm. There you go.
All right.
Cool. All right. So my Robert Zimmerman story. Real
Yeah.
quick. No, just it's
was
just
he an offensive lineman for the Minnesota Vikings?
he did. He played for the Vikings, as a matter of fact. Yeah. No, Bob Dylan. Went to see
Is
Bob
Dylan
Dylan
from Minnesota?
He might be. Him and Prince hung out in Minneapolis for
They
years.
did. They didn't realize they were sitting next to each other.
Exactly. So, but no, went to see him in Atlantic City. I guess, maybe 4 years ago. And you go down there, you're going to go see Bob Dylan, right? Bob Dylan's 135 years old, right? You're going to go see him. He's going to play all of his old stuff, right? He played 2 of his classic songs. Every other song was brand new, off of like he just wanted to play all his new music.
Kind of appreciate that about him.
I mean, I get it because as a musician, you want to play your newer stuff because you're more excited about the newer stuff than you are about the older. I totally get it, but somebody at that level of celebrity and that level of stature in the music industry or whatever, you would think he'd play more than 2 of his classic songs.
I don't know. I mean, that would be one. I don't know if I want to hear Bob Dylan play. How many classic songs does he have?
Enough. More than 2.
Well, what I mean is that he has a lot of deep cuts. Is what I'm getting at. He's not necessarily known as a hit maker. And
right.
He is.
No,
from,
but he's got a handful of songs that everybody knows.
Right.
Sure, I'm sure he played at least 2 of those.
It's a matter.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, because he's obviously at the point like he doesn't give a fuck what anybody wants to hear.
Never has.
Right. But I mean, he's and has been for a while set. In the music business to the point where he doesn't have to worry about that ever. So, that's an interesting.
What's your favorite Dylan song?
I don't know the names of any of them.
Rolling Stone, probably.
What's the one?
I like Tangled Up in Blue.
Tangled Up in Blue is probably my second.
Just Like a Woman.
Tangled Up in Blue is probably my second.
And Subterranean Homesick Blues is really good.
Which is the one that's Don't Think Twice? That's all right.
Don't Think Twice. It's all right.
Is that the name of it? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. It's actually, I think, called Don't Think Twice. It's all right.
It's all right.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably my favorite one.
Ballad of a Thin Man's kind of an interesting song.
Ballad of a Thin Man's interesting. Jerry Garcia's version of Tangled Up in Blue is pretty interesting too. So,
I want you. Isn't that on Blonde? That's my favorite album. It is. Mm-hmm. I'm not a huge Dylan guy. I'll be honest. I've sort of gotten into him more within the last 10, 15 years than I ever did earlier.
That's probably we all know.
As did I. I mean,
he fascinates me as a person, much like Springsteen. I'm not a huge Springsteen fan, but I like Bruce Springsteen, so I'm kind of fascinated by them. I think Dylan's really interesting, and
I know a couple of people who are like really, really into him, and I just could never get that much. I appreciate what he's done, but just could never get. I had a brief phase where I was like, "Oh, let me listen to this and let me listen to that," which I do with a lot of.
I think we're a little young.
Yeah, well, but you kind of know them, and then at a certain point, you go, "Well, let me see what these fanatics really love about him," and then you listen to a whole bunch of music, and that's usually when I find out, yeah, okay, he's fine, but I'm not going to get fanatical over him.
Right.
So,
hey,
let me ask you guys this, because I have this discussion argument with people all the time. Like I'm kind of torn between I want to go see like these bands or artists or whatever like from the 80s and the 90s, and I'm like I don't. Because
that's a broad statement. Name a band, and some of them you want to see, and some of them you don't.
Right.
It also depends on where you're going to see them. Like I never want to go see Def Leppard in an arena or a stadium, but they just played the Troubadour, I think, in LA, and holy shit, would that be great to see them at a club?
Right.
I mean, there's some bands I just don't want to see in an arena. I hate arena rock. I just
Harry, do you remember when we saw Blue Oyster Cult and the Soap Factory?
Maybe.
Yeah.
For me, it's more
it was
about
a late night. I understand. I get it.
Like on one hand, I'm kind of happy for them that they're still doing what they love, but I also kind of because it's a downward spiral, right?
Yeah.
And there's a
you
reason
get to a
they're
point,
playing.
and then you come.
There's a reason they're playing some of those smaller clubs, and
some of them are playing bigger
not packing the arenas anymore. Yeah,
right. But my point is, some of them are keeping it going because that's what they do.
Right.
And it just gets kind of sad sometimes.
It depends. It's a broad range. I think when you look at the really big sort of hair metal bands of that era, I know a guy who goes to see like Rat Right.
and you know,
you can see
and
that they're definitely not playing in bigger arenas.
No, they're not.
No, but I'm like,
but they're
playing in Geico commercials.
They package it together.
They're playing in
and
Geico
they get
commercials.
one big band which still draws, and then they have 17 other bands opening.
Right. That's exactly.
yeah.
What it is.
You know,
I don't know. I just find it. I don't know.
it depends. I saw Peter Hook a couple times recently, and it was great. Last week I was supposed to go see Bauhaus. They canceled, so I can't. There are some classic bands from that era that I never saw, so I'm seeing them maybe for the first time later in their careers, and so it's new to me. But there's a lot. There's some of those bands that have been around from that period of time who are still playing clubs, and yes, they're older, but they're still great. I saw two different iterations of Gang of Four, which were never in a big arena rock band, but still guys in their 60s and maybe 70s still putting on great shows. I just saw Garbage. Look, they're a 90s band, but their guitarist is 72 years old, and they were great. I just saw, Tears for Fears the other night. They were great. They're in their late 60s.
Weren't they touring together?
Yeah, they were touring together.
Yeah.
It was a great show. So is that 80s? Yeah, I think Tears for Fears' biggest hit was 1985.
Yeah.
So that album was all over the place. So that's an 80s band.
Yeah, see,
that's
that
I think
like
of that. Yeah, and they're better than ever.
Yeah,
they're
maybe it's just sort of the heavy,
it's
the heavy
whatever,
metal.
right.
It's kind of because it's based on energy and youth.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't want to see these guys. Especially if you've seen them. Like what you said, if I've never seen them before, and they happen to be, I wasn't a huge fan. There's a lot of shit.
And there was a lot of bands that I didn't want to see back in the day.
Right. But if there was one that I
them.
kind of liked and I never saw them, okay, maybe. But yeah, maybe that based on youth and energy and all that. I don't want to see them in their 60s. Just
I'll tell you a band that I've never seen that I would go see in a second, and that's Iron Maiden.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
sort
that's
of the
probably
opposite.
kind of an exception.
Yeah. I've seen the English Beat a number of times. Granted, it's very few of the original members, but still the same lead person. They're great.
You know who I saw?
I've seen the Fix a number of times. They're still great. So I think it really depends.
You know who I saw a few years back, in one of those concerts where it was like 3 or 4 bands.
Yeah.
And they were billed as like an opening act, basically. Colin Hay on his own, all acoustic.
Oh, he's great.
He's amazing.
He's got Men at Work back together too. I think it's
another iteration, obviously.
One or two of the original guys, not much. Colin Hay's voice is still incredible, and he's a person who not only do I want to see him, but he's also put out a song, songs recently that
and some of his new stuff are amazing. Yeah. Really good. Everything.
There's King Crimson. I mean, it's a band that's been around forever. I'll go see them no matter what they do. So I think there's more musicians bands that maybe don't rely on the just pure vocal ability. That
King Crimson, yes, and ELP were the pull members from it and made Asia.
Yeah, well, ELP was not part of Asia. It was King Crimson, yes, and ELP. No, I thought you meant ELO.
No,
Carl Palmer from ELP.
Carl Palmer, yeah. The P.
And
these guys are.
Yeah, and
Asia
and Trevor Rabin.
Yeah. They're okay.
And who's about? Okay, yeah. There's a question for you: Trevor Rabin or Steve Howe?
Two different things.
That's what I'm saying. It's completely two different styles.
Two different bands. The answer is Chris Squire.
Of course.
I'm not a big, and the thing is, I'm not a big Yes fan.
Yeah.
Chris Squire is one of my favorite bass players, but I'm not a huge Yes fan because I'd rather go back in time and see early Genesis.
I've seen Yes once, and you were there.
Speaking of
I've
Yes,
seen them probably 2-3 times.
Do you remember GTR?
Yeah, well, that was Steve Hackett.
Steve Howe and Steve Hackett. Yeah, I saw them. That was good.
When the heart rules the mind, one
stop
and
singing.
Love is blind.
Yeah, just play, man. There's no need for lyrics. Here's my Springsteen story. So I think it was the Rising tour.
I have one too, but go ahead.
That Don and I went to, and what was great about it was you could get a contact high. That was the first part that was great.
You can do that anywhere now.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
shows.
But this was 20 years ago, and the other part was half the audience was old fogies like us who didn't know all the new stuff and were singing all the old stuff, and then the other half of the audience was younger kids who didn't know all the old stuff. They knew some of it, but not as much as we did. But they knew all the new stuff.
Newer
So
stuff. Yeah.
depending on what he was singing, different kind of
Mhm.
pockets
Areas
of the audience
yeah.
were singing along,
That's
and then
great.
there were a few songs where we all came together, and
That's
it was a pretty cool experience.
Cool. I don't know if I've mentioned it, and Harry, you said he intrigues you, whatever. Did you see his Broadway? I might have mentioned this on the show before, but or to you, but
Springsteen.
yeah. Did you see?
Yeah, I've seen highlights of it, and look, I think it was something different. I mean,
well,
yeah.
Did you do you remember the part where he talks about the one guy that he had idolized?
You've talked about.
We
this
talked
before,
about it. Yeah. So just anybody other the my co-host in the on the sports podcast on the beer podcast is he talks about the person Bruce Springsteen talks about is his father. So, but anyway, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, I mean, I think Bruce is one of those interests. I mean, somebody else who I think in his 70s or close to 70, who I've seen him twice now, and two of the best concerts I've ever seen in my life. Mind blowing is somebody like David Byrne.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you say 80s, I think people think of the the Bon Jovis and the Ratwinger, fill in the blank.
That would have been an interesting band, Ratwinger.
But there's a lot of people still doing great work, and
White Snake maybe.
And for those of you on the East Coast, Tears for Fears with Garbage are coming. They're playing both the PNC Bank Center and Jones Beach. I'd probably prefer to go see them at Jones Beach, but
a couple friends of mine actually drove all the way out to Cuyahoga Falls, about 20 minutes south of Cleveland, to go see them last weekend.
Yeah. So I highly recommend it. Their Tears for Fears has a great band. There was the Karina Round, who's one of the people in Maynard's band, Pussifer, is she's singing with them, and just unbelievable. But anyway, Garbage is also fantastic. Shirley's the kid in the band at 55, 56, however old she is. Yeah. But but it's a great double bill, and it's a great show. I saw Tears for Fears at Red Rocks a few years back, and they're one of those bands. They can still do it. They sound fantastic.
Nice. Cool. All right. Well, that's the music biz talk for the this part of the podcast.
Over under.
All right. Cool. We have anything else?
I'm done.
What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, I didn't look up any
obscure
you guys
sports.
watching the French Open at all?
Wasn't that last week?
That was last week.
Well, I'm saying it's been going on for a couple of weeks. Did you watch any of it?
This is true.
I mean, what was it? 2 weeks ago, that match between Nadal and Djokovic was pretty spectacular.
Well, it was.
Wasn't it Nadal and Djokovic?
Yes. Yeah, I actually went to.
Jokic?
You went to the French Open?
No, I went to watch
for Vidal and Nikola Jokic.
Yes.
Let's see how many answers you guys give. I went to see. I went to see the UEFA Cup Championship game.
Okay.
With a guy, he's a native Long Islander, and he worked at my folks' restaurant up in New Paltz, like 20 some odd years ago, while he was going to school up there. But he's back on Long Island, lives close, and we connected through Facebook. Facebook did something good.
There you go.
And he's a big Liverpool fan, so we went and watched. Unfortunately, they lost to fucking Real Madrid, who's now won like 10 of those goddamn cup championships and stuff. But nice to see an old friend. And but that was going on, and the French Open was going on, and I remarked to him, like, how many, because the stadium holds like 90,000 people, and then you have the French Open, like how many people are there just for those two
Roland
sporting events.
Garros.
Yeah, just for those two sporting events, it must have been pretty horrible to get
A lot,
around.
yeah.
So
That,
little bit.
I do think if I will never have a child, but if I did, I would name it Roland Garros.
Roland Garros.
I mean, come on, is there a better name than that?
No,
Roland Garros Nutz.
Roland Garros Nuts.
No, it would be Roland Garros Lug Nutz.
Lug Nuts.
Oh,
Lug
all right,
Nuts
Lug
there. There you go.
I thought Lug was. There's no hyphen.
Or maybe just Roland Garros. Maybe I wouldn't give them that. Garros would be their
You
last
can
nuts
name
of
your
the Lug
kid
Nuts.
anything, right? They don't have to have your last name, right?
No,
Yeah, you can name it
you
Estrelita
can name it
Gonzalez.
Blanket.
You could. I've heard. You can.
You could name him Roland Garros, not on his phone.
That's right.
You can name it North.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yes.
Anyway, I this came across my I was gonna say desk, but legitimately
Radar?
phone today. Yeah. NBA all-time starting five trending. Here's the correct list.
I believe
Harry, you wanna read
that's
it off?
absolutely true.
Okay.
Yeah, Magic Robertson, Kobe Jordan,
Mhm.
LeBron Bird, Tim Malone, and Kareem Abdul-Chamberlain.
There you go. Those are your
I think
all-time starting five right there.
That's right. I mean, can't go wrong.
No, not at all.
They were great. That Kobe Jordan, though.
Kobe Jordan was. I mean, seriously. I mean, Magic Robertson, though. I mean,
Magic Robertson. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, I knew.
LeBron Bird was.
Yeah. Pretty damn good.
He was pretty damn good. Tim Malone.
Tim Malone, one of the best post-up
There you go.
South Texas Mormon
South
power
Texas
forward in the
Mormon power
history of the game.
Definitely the greatest Mormon. in
And
the-
not last but not least, I mean, Kareem Abdul-Chamberlain. I mean,
Kareem Abdul-Chamberlain, he was a very conflicted man.
it was.
He had two very opposite sides to his personality. Yes.
He absolutely did.
Because they didn't put his nickname in there either. Which
No,
was
they didn't.
Hakeem.
Yeah.
Nickname was
Kareem Stilt.
Kareem Abdul Hakeem
Yeah,
Chamberlain.
Kareem Abdul Hakeem Chamberlain.
Chamberlain. There you go. So,
Yeah, there's that weird, I guess, app or something. It picks your all-time top five, and some of the people they have available for that all-time top five. I think they're trying to get people talking about the NBA.
that would make sense. That would make
Yeah.
sense. So, yeah. All right. All right. Well, I think we've successfully had another successful week of another
We've
show.
had another successful week. I think what are we up to? 40,000 followers now.
40,002.
40,000 minus 39,412.
Yeah, a little less than that.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, a little less than minus. A little less
Wow.
than that.
I think we need to break out the velvet hand of Radio Pete a little earlier on in the show. And
There's that. I mean, you thought I was kidding. There's the name of the beer right there.
I know. You guys and your weird beard names.
Beard. Yeah, I named my beard.
Your
So-
beer
Hey,
name.
it's a beard.
You named your beard the Velvet Hand.
I named my beard the Velvet Hand. There you
Yeah, maybe the Velvet Cushion.
go. I'll take the one. Yeah.
I'm not saying anything.
All right, there you go.
I can't think of anything that.
that won't disgust the entire world.
Yeah, that should be said. Everything that's coming to my mind should not be said.
Don't even bother.
Right.
Don't even bother.
Santa's drunk. That's the name of John's beard.
All right, let's get out of here.
All right.
All right. You
Rock
got
and
it. On that
roll.
note, we will wrap the show for today. We want to thank everybody for watching. And for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.getonwithitpodcast.com. That's getonwithitpodcast.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for the Get On With It podcast. And, of course, all of our shows are available on YouTube as well on the Logger Room channel. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night around 7:30 Eastern Time. And for those of you who just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts, and iHeartRadio as well. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you'll never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will talk to you next week, folks. Take care. Cheers.
Hey, that top part of my emergency brake broke in my car today.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh,
I pulled
sorry.
it up, and like the piece came out that you push in to make it. So I was stuck in this woman's driveway
And you couldn't push it
with
to
the
make it go
emergency
down.
brake
Right?
on. Yeah, I was able to load it back in place and get it to work, but
We're
good.
still on the air, Pete.
yeah, I know. 2 or
You
3
reloaded
minutes.
There
I
you
was.
go.
Well, then she came out and she showed me how to
She showed you how to put the button in.
push the knob in, so to
She
speak.
showed you how to get you.
She showed you how to get your knob back in.
She was
And,
like, "Come hell or high water, I'm getting you out of my
Out of
fucking
this
driveway."
driveway. I don't care what it takes. You're leaving.
So I'm only doing this because you're on my property. So,
That's right.
which not the first
Hey,
time I've heard
That was
that.
nice of her.
Did you
She
live
was-
feed it?
She was raised by Manny, Mo, and Jack.
But I was literally starting to panic because
Yeah.
I had.
How are you
like-
going to get your brake off?
Yeah, I couldn't go anywhere, and I had like, 35, 40 drops to make. So
There you
but
go.
that's
You were more concerned about them than you were about the car.
Somebody may have died if you did not get the help of that woman with your emergency brake.
well, no one would have been able to use their circular driveway if I didn't move. So
Now, was she holding the button over the knob when you pushed it in?
she
Yeah.
was sort of cradling it in her fingers,
Very
and
nice.
using
Cupping
her
it, if you
thumb,
will.
cupping, and then using her thumb on the top of it to press it
Mhm.
down.
Ooh, I hate that.
Yeah.
Hate when that happens.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note,
Anyway,
Thank you, mystery woman with circular driveway.
we appreciate your
Live in
business.
some pretty fancy areas if you got some circular driveways going.
oh,
on.
they all have circular driveways.
And that's not just a euphemism.
No.
That's
circular
the name of
driveways.
Pete's. That's the name of Pete's new book. They all
They all
have
They
circular,
all
Circular
have
driveways.
driveways.
Not a Dylan
Absolutely.
song. I think it's a Dylan song.
Why not? Sure. Let's write it if it's not.
Hmm
All right. Have a good one, folks.
Bye.
Cheers.